Welcome to TJ Grows. This is the AC Infinity Controller76 Quick Review and Programming Guide. Controller76 is a smart Bluetooth enabled controller that allows you to program two outlets at the same time based on temperature and humidity controls. The unit can be programmed directly from the front face, or you can connect it to your phone with Bluetooth and program it with an app, which also unlocks some more advanced controls. First, I'd like to show you through the menu directly on the unit. Pushing the menu button on the bottom left side of the controller is what allows you to switch to the different operating modes. Right now I'm switching to the different automatic modes. This is the timer mode, which has timer to on and timer to off. Next up is the cycle mode, which allows you to just cycle the fan on and off with a set amount of time passing on each cycle. And then there's a schedule, which allows you to turn the controller on and off based on the time of day. You also have the option to have it always off and always on. Each controller has two outlets, but both outlets have to share the same programming. The screen is always showing you the current temperature, humidity, and time, along with the operating mode and the current on and off status. I'm going to go over quickly just how to set up a fan with a high temperature and a high humidity trigger. So you do that in automatic mode. So push menu till you go over to automatic mode there. And now the one that the setting you're going to change is selected by that little dot. So we're on high temperature. Now the setting is shown down here. And you just change it with the up and down arrows. Whatever setting is right for your environment. I have mine set at 26 right now, just in case it ever gets a little too warm in the tent. It's going to kick on and vent that down a few degrees. I'm going to show you how to change that buffer setting on this controller itself in 1 second. So my high fan trigger is set at 26. If the temperature ever gets to 26 degrees, fan's going to come on. Now we can change the setting, push the menu button again. You're on low temperature setting. I actually don't want to use a low temperature setting on this fan. It's never going to get low enough inside my house to worry about that. And the fan's not going to help me if the temperature does get low. So I'm going to turn that one off by pushing up and down at the same time for about 2 seconds. Setting goes to off. Okay, now the controller is not going to use low temperature as a trigger. We'll go to the next one, high humidity. I have mine set to 66 right now. That's where I want it to be. I'm trying to keep my humidity between 60 and 65 right now. My plants are still pretty young. The low humidity setting, also I'm going to leave that one turned off. If you did want to turn it on, you just push up or down. Now the number comes back up. Now 50 would be your low humidity trigger to turn this controller on. But I don't want to use it, so I'm going to hold up and down again. Turn that one off. And that's it. Now you're all set up. That's all you have to do. So now this fan will turn on at that high temperature trigger and at that high humidity trigger. And if you want to change the buffer for those right from this controller, it's the settings button. So the settings, the first one is display. That's actually just the brightness of the display. You change all these with the up and down arrows. It goes out of the settings menu automatically after a couple seconds. So back into the settings, display, you can change Fahrenheit, Celsius. That's where you can set the clock. You can actually calibrate your sensors. I didn't adjust either one of these sensors, and I feel like they were calibrated pretty well from the factory. If you keep pushing settings till you get to buffer T, now that's where you can change that buffer setting. So remember, I had my high temperature set to 26. So at 26 the fan would turn on, and at 23 the fan's going to turn back off. That's what that buffer setting means. And then you could do the same thing for the humidity. I don't really want it at 8. One thing I noticed about the controller you only have every 2% to change the humidity. If you change this in the app, you can set it to whatever number you want. I think I had mine at 5. I'm gonna leave it at 6 for now. So my high humidity trigger was 66. The fan's gonna come on at 66, drop it down to 60, and then turn off. Well, I just turned on my low humidity trigger. I'm gonna turn that back off. It went out of the settings menu on me. So there you go. It'll drop it from 66 down to 60, and then this controller will turn back off. And that's how you set that up. Now that fan's gonna run all by itself with those settings. Alright, this is the home screen for the AC Infinity app. These are my 2 controllers that I've added in here. Click on the plus to add your controllers. So if I choose one of my controllers, this is the screen that pops up. This is how you have it set right now. This is where it shows you when the fan is triggered, what trigger set it off. I have my fan set up to trigger on high temperature and high humidity. So if it hits either one of those triggers, it'll turn the fan on until the temperature is lowered or the humidity is lowered. And the way that you decide how much it changes the temperature is in the settings, the little gear at the top right. And you go down to buffer temperature and buffer humidity. So these numbers can't go into negatives. So all you're setting is how much the temperature is going to change by before the fan turns off, or before it turns off power to the outlet, and how much the humidity is going to change by before it turns off power to the outlet. I have high triggers set. You can also set low triggers. And right now I run my fan in auto mode. If you click on auto, so these are all the different modes that the controller can run in. These are the same modes that you get when you click through that menu button on the actual unit itself. There's just off, there's on, there's auto mode where you set the triggers and the buffer to decide how it behaves. There's cycle, which is a duration on and a duration off. Timer to on, a timer to off. Just set an amount of time that passes before it changes the condition. And you can set up a schedule. Just when does it turn on and off. Those are all the basic settings for those controllers. And then there is a little tab down at the bottom with an A on it, and that's the advanced settings. So here you can set up full automated schedules, as well as alarms and notifications. So the way I had it set up is I wanted to have a little bit higher temperature and humidity while the lights in my tent were on, and a little bit lower while the lights were off. So I have a timer running my lights, and I just set this on the same schedule as those lights, with the lower settings while the lights are off and the higher settings while the lights are on. So if I have both of these turned on like that, then now the fan will run like it was in auto mode in the basic settings, but it will change the parameters just based on the time of day it is. Very nice feature, very cool feature. Really lets you fine tune the environment inside your tent. So here's the high humidity trigger for the fan controller. On the left you can see high humidity flashing, and you can see my fan controller up top is now powered on, and that means the fan is running. And I'm sure some of you wonder why I have a fan controller that looks like it can do everything that this AC Infinity controller can do. That is a lesson in buy once, cry once. I thought I could save a few dollars, and that unit on top was supposed to do what this AC Infinity unit is doing, but it didn't. So now that's just sort of a dummy controller. It just comes on when this controller triggers on and lets me know the fan is working. And there you go. It reached its buffer, dropped it down to 60%, powers off. So right now this controller is controlling my humidifier. It's just coming on with a low trigger. So you can see that humidity's dropped below my trigger. That's why it's flashing low humidity, and it's telling me right there that the unit's now on. This off over here is referring to the one that's selected high temperature. I don't run a high temperature trigger on this controller right now because I just have it connected to my humidifier. All I want this one to do is come on when the humidity gets too low. And that's what it's doing right now. So overall, I absolutely recommend the AC Infinity Controller76. It's exactly what you need for smart control over regular appliances. The level of programmability is awesome, especially with the advanced controls through the app. I wish there was a Wi-Fi version, but that's pretty minor. I also wish there was a version that had separate control over each outlet instead of two outlets sharing the same triggers. But none of that takes away from what this unit can do, especially at the price point. Thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it helps some people out in figuring out their new controller.